Sup nerds, so Sonic Generations like 6 years ago was the last pretty good 3D Sonic game. And Generations was really good, but it recycled a lot of older assets and it had classic Sonic in it. It was sort of this celebration thing. I really wanted to see how this boost gameplay style was going to progress further, because ever since Sonic Unleashed, when it was first introduced into the series, I think each game in succession had gotten better. So when Sonic Mania and Sonic Forces was announced last year, I was incredibly excited for Sonic Forces. I kind of brushed Mania under the rug because I thought it was something that Sega had already attempted to do, but as the game came out, I quickly became really excited about Mania, and as more information about Forces came out, I kind of lost my interest. And I sort of think that's the opposite of what's supposed to happen. So I think Forces has some positive aspects, but there's also some things about the game itself that's starting to worry me a little bit. I think it's a really good idea to sort of make a nostalgic game based off of some of the key aspects of the adventure series. I mean, you had that trailer that had, Metal Sonic Chaos, that guy from Sonic Lost World, and Shadow as primary antagonists of the series. And of course, any adventure fan knows who two of those people are. But on top of that, this game's going for a sort of darker story that we really haven't seen attempted in a Sonic game since Sonic 06. Well, for obvious reasons. But also you have little things like lyrics coming back to song stages, which hasn't been seen since Sonic Adventure 2, I want to say. And some of those tracks from Sonic Adventure 2 are like fucking classics. Like, I'm still waiting for my multi-dimensional vinyl to come out. And I think Sonic Forces can definitely be the Sonic Adventure 2 for a younger generation of Sonic fans. But for me, who's a crusty, old, complainy Sonic fan, I'm kind of like, this isn't what I want. This isn't my Sonic. So the biggest thing introduced in Forces has been the character customizer. And this is something that I would really want when I was really younger, but I'm kind of not too intrigued by it. In fact, it looks kind of boring. I don't want to design my own character and play through other stages. I want to play as Sonic and the characters from the games that I've grown to love. And it's kind of weird because they've had to redesign these stages or design these stages to work with different playstyles. But why can't I play as, Knuckles or Tails or, all the other classic characters that have been introduced over the course of decades? And I know Shadow's playable, but that doesn't really count because Shadow is just kind of a clone of Sonic in terms of how he plays. And on top of that, if you look in the description of the YouTube video introducing Shadow in the game, you see that it's gonna catch up with Team Dark to see what happened to them. And I'm wondering if a certain little plotline that was set up is gonna be resolved. I'm kind of excited for my 8-year-old self to be getting some resolution. On top of that, the custom character stages just don't flow very well. It looks like it's focusing a lot on platforming, which is good. It's a good balance to have that in Sonic stages, but also it seems really tool heavy and power up heavy. I don't want this almost like Sonic gameplay for the custom characters. If they're going to differentiate the playstyle, I would want something completely different, like altogether. Not sort of Sonic, just something, something that goes along the lines of what the adventure games did with the different styles of play. There are many ideas that are being recycled into Sonic Forces that may have worked in another game, but when you combined them, they don't really make a great game altogether. It's sort of a mismatch of ideas. Sonic Unleashed had a 2D and 3D transitions to balance out platforming and high-speed sections, but Sonic Forces is shoehorning classic Sonic back into the mix. The balance isn't needed in modern Sonic games when it's found somewhere else. Improve upon 3D platforming like Sonic Generations tried to do, or just remove classic Sonic altogether. Sonic Generations was a celebration. It made sense to reuse levels and classic Sonics in that instance. But when it's doing a whole new story, it doesn't make much sense to have them there and recycle old levels. That being said, I'm incredibly excited to see the lengths that Sega goes to explain why classic Sonic is in the game. It's going to be some absurd reason. I also see that Sonic Forces is looking like it's going to do what Colors did with how many levels are in the game. Sonic Colors had a lot of shorter levels, but I don't necessarily like it when Sonic does that. Colors did it because it was focused primarily on skill-based platforming platforming, and most levels would test a particular obstacle, quirk, or skill. I don't think a bunch of really short levels will work in an incredibly linear, speed-based obstacle type game. Forces literally looks like all the levels are made up of different hallways where you just go straight. Sonic Generations found this really good balance between the boost gameplay, platforming, and exploring, but everything in the Sonic Forces gameplay looks like it's extremely linear, with cinematic cutscenes that last just a little too long. My preference for a Sonic game is to have, a limited amount of stages that are really well designed and have a lot of personality. I think something like Sonic Generations did it really well. There were only 9 core stages, but they had different side missions you can do in each level to keep the game going. A Sonic game doesn't need to last 20 to 40 hours. I know a lot of people are getting upset about Sonic reusing particular stages, but Sonic has kind of always done that. I mean, the first level in Sonic 2 is just a newer version of Green Hill Zone, but a newer trend has been not changing them enough to be different. Like the Casino Zone that was showed off in the footage just looks like Casino Night Zone, but in a forest, and they call it something different. But then you have this sort of sandy Green Hill Zone and a more muted version of Chemical Plant Zone, but instead of making them their own things and differentiating them just slightly more, they continue to call them Green Hill Zone and Chemical Plant Zone, which we've seen over and over again in the past few years. There's a lot of stuff that's bothering me about Sonic Forces, but I don't actually think it's going to be a bad game. My worry is it's just gonna be kind of an okay game. Sonic Mania brought people back to the series who didn't even remember that they ever liked Sonic at one point. It proved that the series still has potential, but my fear with Forces is that it's coming out in a post-Mania series. We've seen the potential for good Sonic games, for great Sonic games, and Sonic Forces seems like it's just going back to that status quo of, this is okay, this is pretty good, when there could be better. And I think there is potential for a good 3D Sonic game. I mean, the early adventure titles had some great moments, and even the boost games had some great moments. Sonic's experimented a lot with how he interacts in a 3D space, and because of that, there's never been a definition of what a 3D Sonic game can look like. And because of that, they haven't been able to repeat success. Sonic Forces doesn't look like it's necessarily improving upon anything within the Sonic franchise, but instead, they're taking all these different ideas that were pretty good when they were used and combining them into one thing. And because of that, I'm kind of afraid Sonic Forces is going to be just okay. And even though that has been the status quo for quite a while, this is a time where people are excited about Sonic again, and it's kind of disappointing to see it go back to a stage where it's just okay. So anyways, thank you for watching. If you have differing opinions about Sonic Forces, which I'm sure you do, comment down below and let me know why I'm so horribly wrong about this game. And I hope I am, because I really do want to enjoy Forces. If this is your first video of mine, please consider subscribing, and if you want to follow me on social media and support me on Patreon, I got links down in the description down below. Thank you for watching, have a good day, I'll see you next week.